Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here to spread some Parkinson's awareness. As just in chatting a few minutes before, it feels like people are starting to know someone or know somebody else who's affected by the disease. So I'm here to share a little bit, do a Parkinson's disease overview, and then talk about the resources and some of the things that we do at the foundation. To help with the presentation, I'd like to know, what people's connection is, if they know someone living with Parkinson's, if they are living with someone or themselves have Parkinson's, or if you work in like the healthcare field. Just share in the chat with me, if there's any connection and if there's anything particular that you're interested in learning. We have so many programs, so I can't go super deep into all of them, but at least getting you the resources of where to turn to and where to find more information is my hope for you today. And with that, I will share my screen and we will get started. All right, so Parkinson's disease, you might think of some of the notable names who have been diagnosed, like Michael J. Fox, Muhammad Ali. Anybody else come to mind? Reverend Jesse Jackson, Neil Diamond, some of the more notable names, Ozzy Osbourne. But it is a disease that is progressive in your brain. At this time, there's no cure, but thankfully we have many treatment options to handle the symptoms. It can affect your movement, your mood, and your thinking. And some of the big pieces that play a role, not only are treatment, but lifestyle choices. So diet, nutrition, exercise, social engagement, all those pieces, treating the person as a whole really can help manage their Parkinson's. And getting that education at the right time can be really supportive to help start them on the right path, or even anytime during their diagnosis. So we'll start with a little bit about Parkinson's. So who gets it? It's estimated we have about 1 million people in the United States. It can affect anyone. Doesn't matter race, ethnicity, or gender. Depends on who you are, but some neurologists say it does appear to affect men more than women, but just by a slight percentage. And the average age of diagnosis is 60 or older. There is a young onset, component. So people who are diagnosed under the age of 60, 50s, 40s, 30s, or even 20s. And they're called young onset Parkinson's. It looks a little different, but people continue to live well for 20, 30, even 40 years now with Parkinson's. So like Michael J. Fox would have been your young onset as he was diagnosed when he was 30. One of the big questions I always get is, well, what causes it? We're still researching. It is largely unknown. One of the big questions is the genetics. Is it passed down? It is rarely passed down hereditary, about 10 to 15%. But even if you get a genetic test and you test positive for those certain gene mutations associated with Parkinson's, their risk may increase, but you may never develop Parkinson's. So that's one of the big things coming up, as many genetic testing are available on the market. And so we get a lot of questions about how that works. But if you do have the certain test that's positive, it doesn't mean that you will get it. It just increases the risk. Then there's the environmental factors. We know exposure to toxins like Agent Orange for Vietnam vets cause Parkinson's and other neurological disorders. And so that's another big piece of looking in our area in Minnesota and the Dakotas that I cover. It's what is in the environment, what's in the farming, what's in the well water, what are these pieces that could be affecting, their upbringing. So I am always interested in hearing more about those pieces. And then lastly, other risk factors are like traumatic events, older age. Sometimes the events are unlikely to be the single cause of the disease. It is a slow degenerative process. So sometimes if it was like like Muhammad Ali, a hit to the head, it could have accelerated one of the other symptoms to show, but doesn't necessarily cause the Parkinson's. Like it was always there underlying and now it's more prevalent, if that makes sense. There are a variety of symptoms of Parkinson's. Whoops. I'm in my sister's setup, so I'm usually used to my second monitor. So I'm down to one laptop today. So it's it's a more unique setting for me. So thank you for your patience with my clicker. So the Parkinson's affects a lot of the symptoms in the body. And I think that's where not everybody understands. It includes your mood, your thinking, even like your GI tract are all affected by Parkinson's. So there's two categories. There's the movement symptoms and the non-motor symptoms. So the movement are the things that you can visibly see, like your tremors. So like a tremor shaking in your hand or your head, the slow movements, stiffness in the joints can be part of the motor symptoms of Parkinson's. And they definitely vary from person to person. If you've met one person with Parkinson's, you've met one person. They look and can have very different symptoms, and they can change along the journey with Parkinson's as well. So just a little more into the four cardinal motor symptoms is the shaking or the tremor in your hand or your foot. Sometimes it can be in different parts of the body, like your jaw. It is usually recognized as like, oh, that's Parkinson's, but not all tremors are Parkinson's. There's also just an essential tremor that could just be in one spot, and then they don't have any of the other symptoms like the next 3 bullet points. So the slowness or trouble with movement called bradykinesia. And something that I think is very interesting is that these can be subtle changes. The slowness isn't just apparent overnight. They change over time. So maybe it's just taking a little longer getting dressed, zipping up their zippers or doing a button, even preparing food or brushing their teeth. Those might be changes that happen overnight, but over time you can notice, wow, it used to, dinner used to be on time at 5:30 and now it's 6:15 and we're finally sitting down to eat. Those changes over time. Then we also have stiffness or rigidity in the arms. So like think about making, a tightness in any muscles or like pulling it in, that tightness, and then releasing it, that muscle relaxes. But rigidity would keep those muscles tight and there wouldn't be any relaxation or extension in it. So it can be painful at times as well with that stiffness and rigidity. And then also problems with walking and balance. And that also can change over time and can be apparent at any point and can just change, depending on the environment or level of activity as well. Then there's the non-motor symptoms. So one of the analogies used often is the iceberg effect. So we can see the motor symptoms on top of the iceberg, very visual. You can see this trouble walking or the tremor, but underneath the water, there's a lot more happening. So can it affect your mood? Depression and anxiety are very common, unfortunately, with Parkinson's disease. Also the lack of interest, the apathy. So it can be hard to get people motivated to get out and do things they used to enjoy. Thinking and memory or the cognition can be affected. So not just moving slow, but also the cognition. The wheels take a little longer to respond, remembering words, or learning new things. There's a whole variety of other symptoms in the non-motor category. Some of the more common are softer speech or swallowing problems, sleep or falling asleep, such as REM, sleep disorder, and also fatigue, feeling sleepy during the day or having very little energy, and then also constipation, incontinence, skin issues. So one of my pieces I always love to educate is that if you're having a new issue, it probably comes back to Parkinson's if you have that diagnosis. It just really gets involved into all of your cells in your body. So thinking about all the different pieces that come together for a Parkinson's diagnosis, some of these things could happen over time, just like as I mentioned with the slowness. So these are like the 10 early warning signs. And this isn't like to scare anybody or to cause alarm, but these are things that if they're happening to you or loved ones or to any clients, we want to make sure that they're having that conversation with their doctor, with their primary care. Because when you put a couple of these together, it could look like early signs of Parkinson's. And if there's good communication with that doctor, there could be the next step to figuring out how we can help manage those symptoms. And I do have a brochure of this, which is a great community piece to share. So if you're interested, you can just let me know and I can get those shipped out to you at no cost. So how is this diagnosed? You've got a couple of these symptoms, a little slowness, some constipation, trouble sleeping. Can I go get a blood test and tell me I have Parkinson's? Unfortunately, no. It is a clinical assessment with a neurologist. So they have a battery of tests that you do, like pinking your fingers together, walking back and forth, and they're looking to see if you have 2 out of those 4 symptoms of Parkinson's. So do you have that tremor? Do you have the slowness of movement? Do you have the stiffness and rigidity? And do you have trouble with balance? And are you having any falls? So they look for that to build the case. Sometimes it can be very tough because it could look like something else, or maybe a medication is causing this symptom. So there is another test available called a DAT scan that can help support the diagnosis. So if they're unclear, they might recommend that testing to just double check if their thinking is on the right path to a Parkinson's diagnosis. And this is one of the hardest pieces because there is no testing. They also look to see if there's any response to the treatment of like a medication. So is their tremor more controlled if they take medication? They'll have them take the medication 6 months and then come back and see if it's more managed. Okay, yes, you're making progress with this medication. It does confirm that we have a Parkinson's disease. If it's not, medications aren't helping, they look back at some of the other diagnoses that might be more atypical. We have lots of information on that because there's also a lot of confusion with Lewy body dementia, multiple systems atrophy, and some of the other atypical ones. So we have more information about that on our website. I touched on the medications that are helpful for motor and non-motor symptoms. There's also surgical options for motor symptoms, and that would be a process that would be discussed with the neurologist or the provider. There's also many things like the lifestyle changes that can be made to help manage symptoms, such as the exercise, getting into therapy for physical, occupational, speech therapy to help working on fine motor skills, gross motor skills, helping the speech stay strong and loud. And then also the emotional, the coping, and accepting the changes that are happening. A big one is when driving is a question, or if they're young onset, is this too stressful for me and my symptoms to stay employed? So lots of different topics. So making sure you have a whole team approach is very helpful. So building that care team, who's on that? So this is a hope of what a person could find in their community. It's not always available in every community, but finding those people who are in your corner, who you have a good relationship with. We have quite a few specialists in Minnesota and on the border into Fargo, North Dakota, who are movement disorder specialists who have done extra training called a fellowship, who are experts in treating movement disorders. But general neurologists are able as well to help manage and oversee a case of Parkinson's. And then you have your other staff support. So someone who can help take on if you have a new symptom or a new challenge by getting into any of those therapy options. And then lastly, the pharmacist. That is so huge to help manage, because you might have to take pills, 3 or 4 times a day, and the dosage might change as symptoms adjust. So having that great pharmacist who can help keep you on track is a great tool. All right, Parkinson's disease symptoms can be effectively treated. We know that symptoms can vary person to person and can be categorized as movement or motor versus non-motor or movement. Having that personalized care team really can help short-term and long-term outcomes, not only for the person with Parkinson's, but for the family, the friends, the whole circle that surrounds them. And that's the same with the support network. So how can we find a support group for them, or get them into counseling, or find a Zoom or a online chat room for everyone to be understood and know where they're coming from. All right, that is my quick overview of Parkinson's disease. It went really fast, so I'm not seeing any questions in the chat yet, but feel free to add those in. And I will get started with some of the juicy stuff of what the Parkinson's Foundation can offer for support and resources.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Does anybody that has those tremors that you see, are they always a Parkinson person?
Not
that you always see
necessarily.
older ladies that have these tremors going on, and
Yeah, that's a good question. So not every tremor is Parkinson's, and not every tremor is Parkinson's, and not every person with Parkinson's has a tremor. So it is, fairly common. I believe the last statistic is like 65% of people with Parkinson's have a tremor. But it also could be just essential tremor, where they don't have the slowness of movement. They don't have the stiffness. They don't have any trouble with balance. So they just have that essential tremor. And it doesn't seem to really affect their livelihood that much. I was just at book club last night, and one of the women was talking about going to the hospital for surgery, and the anesthesiologist was like this. And she's like, "Why is Dr. Shaky Hands here?" "Oh, he's the best in the business. He just has essential tremor."
oh,
And she's like, "For real?" And he gave her the best epidural like she's ever had. Like, okay, I guess it's essential tremor is not inhibiting him to do his job. So it really is unique to the individual.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Chelsea, yes, my contact information is on the last slide, which I will definitely be sharing with this group as well. All right. Thanks for the questions. So the Parkinson's Foundation has, been around, I think, over 60 years. And we are the nation's leading community for those living with Parkinson's. And we're working to end the disease. As I said, we're estimating about 1 million Americans live with Parkinson's, and we're here to help people live better today. So we talked a little bit about the statistics, but there is an urgency as we have 60,000 new cases diagnosed every year in the United States. And what always hits me is that it's the second most common neurodegenerative disease after Alzheimer's. And yes, Alzheimer's is terrible and horrible. My grandma had it. I watched her go through it, but I just can't believe that Parkinson's and numbers are right behind that. It just astounds me. And that the prevalence will continue to increase due to our aging population. So we're going to see more people getting diagnosed. And then there's the cost to it, the economic burden. I'm sure you're familiar with some of the other costs associated with other diseases. So it's expensive. So we're here to help people live well now. And how can they improve their quality of life until there is a cure? So we have 3 goals, 3 pillars for today, tomorrow, and for all of us. So how we want to improve care for everyone living with Parkinson's disease. We want to advance research toward a cure. And then building on the energy and the experience and passion of our global community to empower and educate this community. So we'll talk about each of those. I was very excited. I had to update this slide as we just recently announced. We're at 43 and now we have 51 centers of excellence delivering care to nearly almost 200,000 people with Parkinson's. And this map is outdated as we have just press released that new number. And what is also very exciting is that the relationships and support across the globe. We have 8 countries, including Australia, Canada, Germany, Israel, Italy, Netherlands, the UK, Singapore, and Taiwan, who are also part of this Center of Excellence. So they have to be designated and meet the criteria of having so many patients seen. I think it's about 2,000. They have to have research happening that they're conducting at their center, and also of a care team. So not just the neurologist, but the PT, the OT, the speech, all in-house right there to help support and help them with their journey through Parkinson's. So in Minnesota, we have the Struthers Parkinson Center located in Golden Valley and also in St. Paul. And then the closest one to that is in Iowa. The University of Iowa is a center of excellence as well. And then Colorado was recently added. So in our area, those are the 2 main places. We also have been conducting research through these centers of excellence called the Parkinson's Outcome Project. I think it's over 12, 15 years they've been tracking patients' information about their symptoms, and just the information that we're able to gather across these centers is phenomenal, just to help improve and make better standards of practice for all healthcare providers. And with that, we also offer Parkinson's professional training programs for nurses, physical, occupational therapy. We have launched a new online curriculum. We've also launched faculty training programs so that they can help teach the next generation. So making sure that we're educating the future as well. And then my heart of the job is getting the information out, sharing our resources. We have educational books, we have webinars, fact sheets, videos, podcasts, you name it. We like to help pass information in whatever way people like to get it. Hard copies, digitally, listening. So these are pieces that I'm happy to share with the community. If there's a topic that you're interested in, or just Parkinson's 101 to share with family, friends, clients, we have Living Your Best Life, which is kind of a way to handle or coping with a new diagnosis, or to just get a refresher on how you can keep active with Parkinson's. We have fact sheets on any of the non-motor symptoms you can name of. We have fact sheets on helping family members cope, how to handle tough topics like intimacy or driving. Our podcasts are available. We have 2 out every month. They're nice and short, 15 minutes. I just love to catch those to keep up on the beat of what's happening. As you know, we have our hands across the globe, so want to make sure if anyone's getting up on research, we want to be aware of it too. And then we also have our helpline, which is my favorite, to make sure people have in their back pockets if they need someone to chat with, have a question about healthcare or medications, or finding support in their area. And it's very exciting at the national level. We have had a partnership with the area agencies on aging to share and cross-train so that we can help refer to the senior linkage line locally here in Minnesota and what other states have for resources. And then senior linkage line and other resources can refer back to our Parkinson's helpline. So another way to just have great partnerships to get the word out so people know where to turn to. Because I'm not a fan of having to have people go online and Google and get down a rabbit hole and not find the trustworthy evidence-based research. As I mentioned before, it's not just the person with Parkinson's who's affected, it's also the care partner, it's the family, it's the friends, it's that whole circle. So we have some dedicated resources. The Caring and Coping book is a great toolkit. You can open up to any place in your caregiving journal or journey and learn about what would be steps to help, manage medications. There's a tracking sheet that could be helpful. Or I'm starting the process of looking for getting home care. What do I need to look for? There's a chapter for that. So it's really nice not to have to read it front to back, but to just find the section that you're interested in. And then we've also have a new Care Partner course online, which is really a great format as well, where you can go through the course, start at 1, go all the way through 10, or you can pick and choose the topics that are pertinent to you right now. And frankly, it's underutilized. Those are the calls that break my heart of how can we help? I'm lost, I'm burnt out. I know it's not his or her fault, it's the Parkinson's, but I need a break, I need respite. So how can we help where they're at? These courses are filled with so many great tips and opportunities. We also have many of our past support or care partner programs on our YouTube channel as well. And we have a regional care partner in-person event in Milwaukee that'll also be webinar and live streamed coming up November 5th as well. So as that date gets a little closer and I get my flyer finalized, I'm happy to share that information as well. Exercise is one of the biggest things to help manage symptoms. We have done extensive research into finding what is the gold standard for exercise. As why waste my time? I want to know what I need to do now, is the question we get so often. So we have created the Parkinson's exercise recommendations. So this is the guide that, do what you are going to do, whether it's boxing, swimming, yoga, light stretching, silver sneakers, whatever it may be. Do what you're going to be encouraged to do and want to do. And here's some guidelines to help, build out your exercise routine by adding in some strengthening exercises or aerobic conditioning, and spelling out the timelines as well. 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week is like the standard that we're seeing for managing symptoms. So I love to always just say, break it up, 10 minutes morning, lunch, dinner, it doesn't have to be a solid 30 minutes, but find a way. And with the pandemic, we've all been isolated, and we have the book that can walk you through some exercises at home called Fitness Counts. We also have Fitness Fridays, which is a archived exercise class. And we've just started doing some live Fitness Fridays as well. So trying to break that barrier and getting people motivated to get moving again, or to be accountable for it as well. Oh, I got this class, I should show up and get to it. So many ways to just keep active. And the key is to just anything that the person will do, just do it. Don't force, cross training if they're, not interested in flipping tires or something. Do what is of their interest. So getting the diagnosis of Parkinson's can be like a gut punch. It's literally what many people have shared with me as they described leaving their doctor's office of like, what did I just hear? What, come back in 6 months to a year? I have a script, now what? So the newly diagnosed kit was designed with minimal pieces in mind to help get the right information at the right time. Like I said, we have 12 booklets, all these fact sheets. It can feel very overwhelming of where do I begin? So this kit talks about Parkinson's disease, talks about key questions to ask your doctor at your appointment, because that's always a big thing, to be prepared. You know, they have their set time limits. Did you get all your questions in? Did you get the answers? So here's a tool to help you be ready. 5 steps to living well today, from exercise to keeping socially engaged, finding the support you need. And also a letter from our People with Parkinson's Advisory Council, who helped create this tool, because it's helpful to have that in-house at the clinic, or even just get the postcard for the person to call or to order online to get their kit. So they're starting at the right place with just the right amount of information and not hopefully feeling overwhelmed and like a sinking ship. There's another resource that we're going to talk about at the end, but I just want to quickly touch on some of the big pieces that were research focused and breakthroughs. So a piece of the puzzle, of course, is research, finding medications, cures for the future, but also helping people live better now. So we invest $10 million annually to support that range of research. We also want to get more researchers and the young scientists, young doctors to be working in the movement disorder field. So offering research and fellowship grants so that we can keep the young up and coming professionals invested in working to find improvements and a cure. And then also just sharing the outcomes. I feel like that is one of the biggest things I've learned in the community of like, oh, I've been asked to participate, but I don't know anything about it. I don't know what happened. So making sure we disseminate what's happening to help influence future studies. And that is also a big piece. We've trained people with Parkinson's to be Parkinson's research advocates, so they can be at the table as that researcher is developing the study. A common one is we're doing gait study or, balance study. You need to be off your medications for 24 hours or longer. That's a big ask for someone who has tremor or, to be asked, don't take your medication, but just come on in. So how can we be at the table and help that researcher understand the difficulties? Well, maybe if we have them housed in a hotel that's connected to the lab, that could make things easier. So that is a big piece to helping educate and be at the table as those studies are created. All right, I touched on the genetic piece and how it may or may not, tell your future if you're going to have Parkinson's or not. But we do know there's 7 genes that are associated with Parkinson's. And it'd be great to have medicine that can target those specific mutations. So we have started, first of its kind, Parkinson's PD generation, mapping the future of Parkinson's disease, to test at no cost for people with Parkinson's to get their genetic testing for those 7 genes, and then also offer genetic counseling at no cost, which is huge. So they can properly understand and know what their results mean, because it could be something that you'd maybe want to share with family or friends if that could be in their lineage or their genetics. So we're at the 5,000 mark, where our goal is 15,000. So this is across the country. And with the pandemic, it was very exciting that we were able to move to at-home kits. So with telemedicine, they're able to do the correct swab and send it to FedEx to get to the lab in time. So it's very exciting to be more accessible than ever before. We also invest in research centers dedicated to more research as well. And it's also in partnership with other organizations as well that support Parkinson's. And then connecting with the community. We have fundraising events. Moving Day is our annual walk. We have spring and fall walks across the country. And then we also help fund the education. We have about 6 education events a year, outreach programs like this, and local research initiatives. And what is really exciting is that we can help support them with funding through our community grants program. So if somebody's got a great idea, or if has been doing for a program for years, but wants to revitalize it, get more people in attendance, you can apply for funding up to $25,000 to help get that program moving. So really great opportunity to help serve the local community. All right, so we're at about 1:40, so I got about 20 minutes left. One of the pieces I wanted to dig into a little more is called our Aware and Care Kit. So this is our hospital safety kit. And this was created to empower people with Parkinson's with the tools to be their advocate, to be their own advocate in the hospital setting, or to have their loved one, care partner, spouse, adult child be their advocate in the healthcare. Excuse me. So it's also interesting to educate healthcare providers and the staff to get to know what Parkinson's is and how to give them the best care. So we're going to just share a little bit of more information. So this kit is in a bag that you can order online. You can order through me for no cost. If an individual orders it, it's $8. We also have the parts available online. You can just download it, or you could just get the packet through the mail at no cost. So what's in this? These are facts for nurses and information to share with hospital staff the importance and the understanding of Parkinson's. There's so many symptoms. So helping the person even who cleans your room understand, I'm not grumpy, I'm not always angry. I have rigidity in my face. I have facial masking. I can't show expressions as much, or I can't be as expressive. So just sharing that information with a person, or the non-motor symptom, anxiety. I'm not happy to be here. I have extra anxiety. But especially for the nurses, the medications and the importance of getting them on time is very critical. Usually they have a 2-hour window from the alarm, an hour before, an hour after. Parkinson's meds, much more timely. It needs to be within like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on the medication on either side. So how can we educate that nurse to help get that medication on time so it doesn't turn into long-term consequences like a longer hospital stay or complications? So this is a great piece, is that fact sheet for nurses. Also a medical alert card. I also just keep these handy because just sharing with anyone you may come into contact with in the community might not understand why I'm shaking so much, or why my speech is slurred. A lot of people sometimes, unfortunately, get thought to be intoxicated. And then on the flip side is also the medications to avoid and the safe alternatives. If I had more time, I could share all the stories of people getting misunderstood. Their medications have an on-off effect. So you're doing great, you walk into a store looking normal, you're able to go do your grocery shopping, and then your medication starts to wear off and you're stuck, you're frozen. You're walking a slow to a halt, and you're looking at your watch and you still have 30 minutes before you take your next dose. And now you're asking for help. Are you trying to be manipulative? What's wrong with you? You walked in here just fine. I have Parkinson's, and here's some information so you can understand a little more about what I'm going through. So this is a great card. I've had people keep it in their car, keep it on their bedside table. I have multiple copies. Also, the medication information. So important as people start to get more medicine to handle and manage different symptoms of Parkinson's. This is very exciting because now it is available online. So it's a fillable form. So much easier than writing, as that can be affected by Parkinson's as well. And then this is the best, the hospital action plan, a step-by-step guide to help you prepare for a planned surgery or a planned procedure. One of my tips is also to check with the patient advocate or with the hospital. They might not have that specific Parkinson's medication in that hospital pharmacy. So what's the plan? How can we be prepared for that? Could I bring in my own medication? Is there some, another way that needs to be working around it? And then also some really helpful sheets for staff who may not be aware of some of the surgical options, like DBS, deep brain stimulation, or this Duopa pump, which is somewhat similar to insulin pump. So really helping get that education in a quick way so they don't have to go Google it to understand. And these are also helpful to get some information from the doctor. So doctor letters for planned surgery, for any hospitalization, man, especially with COVID, I'm sure that this was helpful for some people to get all these information when they weren't able to be there with their loved one at some point, that they were able to get this faxed or emailed to the provider to understand a little more. So again, here's the bag. And if you do order it, you come with the nice bag, you get a magnet and then also a bracelet. So that would be the $8 one, or you could get it through me at no cost. It's just a really great tool. Then if you need more medication sheets or nurse sheets, you can just print them off online or order them through the helpline at no cost. And they're not just for a hospital or a planned emergency, or not a planned emergency. They're not just for a planned surgery or a hospital stay. It's really helpful to just keep all your information. So you can bring it to your annual checkup with your doctor. Keeping it for travel, super helpful. I've heard some people bring extra medications inside to keep them all together in one place. You know what, sometimes don't want to get them all mixed up together. So having it in one place is easier for them and their loved ones to travel. So it's a really great tool to help with a not fun hospital stay. All right. Lastly, I cannot do this work without some amazing volunteers, advocates, and fundraisers to make this all possible. I cover Minnesota and North and South Dakota and part of Wisconsin. So really being able to share this with you and having you have this knowledge to go out and share as well. You don't even need to have the label as a volunteer, just being an advocate for people to know where to turn to. I've had volunteers share, I just bring it up in line at Kohl's or wherever I'm, shopping, because they can see, as he still writes out his check or hits the pin pad, the tremor, and he just explains, oh, I have Parkinson's. And you wouldn't imagine the times that he shares that, oh, so-and-so has Parkinson's too, or my dad just was diagnosed, and well, here's somewhere you can turn for resources and a helpline that can offer support. So not only just word of mouth, but we also have opportunities to be engaged even more through volunteerism with our fundraising events like Moving Day. We have a cycling event called Parkinson's Revolution. We have people who take on an event themselves called Parkinson's Champions, who have a bake sale or run across the state or bike certain ways and fundraise for the foundation. We have advisory roles with the people with Parkinson's Council. We have research advocates that I mentioned earlier, and then ways to help educate in the community. We have aware and care ambassadors. So that kit, we have a whole group of volunteers trained to help educate the community and hospital staff as well to the pieces of the puzzle that for better hospital care for people with Parkinson's. Education groups, I need help running the programs, or even just getting the word out, sharing flyers or sharing it through social media. You never know who would need this information. And then ways to connect. I'm very excited. Today's the 27th, so tomorrow's the big rollout. We are have an update for our website, and it looks phenomenal. The chapter web pages are going to be revitalized, so pop on tomorrow to parkinson.org to see the new layout, or go today and then check it out tomorrow to see the differences. And then again, there's our helpline phone number. And then here's my local contact information. Feel free to call or text me, email. I'm happy to talk about ways to support you in your community or your family and loved ones with resources. You know, if you even have a coffee shop where you'd want to put up a flyer, I have a really great front and back resource sheet that just kind of talks about the different programs that we mentioned. And then it's a tear off sheet that they can cut, they can mail in, they could just take a photo of it and text it to me. And then I can ship out those materials to you at no cost. And we can do bigger orders too if there's an interest in a fact sheet for a support group or an exercise class, or even a book at that matter too. So lots of ways to support and help get the information out. April is Parkinson's Awareness Month. So we do a little bigger launch, an event, and try to do outreach, but really it's year round because I just did a program, Parkinson's 101, a webinar, and we had 150 register, and a third were diagnosed in 2022. And it blew me away that many people are ready for information and support. And I don't know why it's making me emotional right now, but it just like amazed me that, wow, there's people really wanting to know more and to take this encouragement and, you know, learn how to live well and to thrive despite a Parkinson's diagnosis, because it's possible. And you're not alone. There's people here and there's other people with Parkinson's that you can connect with to help that through your journey. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen, and we have about 10 minutes if anybody has any other questions or anything you want to share.
One question I have, Erin. So the resources, as far as like the exercise class, you mentioned there's something on Fridays.
Yep.
Is that something that's free to people, or is there a fee?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful.
Yep. And they're all archived too.
Okay. And how do people access that then if they want to take part in those exercise classes?
Yeah. The website is parkinson.org/PD health. You can just scroll right down and you'll see all of the archives from our, with the pandemic, we started a webinar series. So we have all of them from the last 2 years. So lots of opportunities and options for you to find the type of exercise from light to moderate intensity and higher.
And then you also said if there's print materials that people want, they can contact you directly to get those.
Yes.
And then those are free of charge as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. Yeah, that is one of the biggest pieces that we fundraise, to make sure that we can help educate in the material or in the form that people appreciate. The books are available on Kindle as well. You can download them from our website. But some people love that tangible book, so let's get them to them. And yes, I saw the chat. I'll make sure to send this PowerPoint as well. And you know what? I'll make sure that I make the links available, just like a follow-up document, so you can see all the pieces that we talked about as well. But then again, it could all just be brand new since my website's relaunching. It might just be easier to find them yourself, but the links will stay correct or current.
Any other questions for Erin? I I know we had one question about the recording. So if you go to our Dancing Sky website, there is a section called Impact. And so they are all housed under there. And so we will add this recording in the coming days and get that on there. And then, like Erin said, she'll send us the PowerPoint that she went through and we'll make sure that gets attached as well. Otherwise, we're just getting some chats of thanking you for the good information.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining.
Any
Well,
other
I'll-
last-minute questions?
She wowed him.